Welcome to Sprinkle with Hope podcast. This is your host, Jason, and we have an awesome guest with us, as always. But today we have Scott Page with us. And, if you don't know who Scott Page is, he played with Pink Floyd, Toto, Supertramp. He's like been in all kinds of music and stuff. But really, we talked a little bit about his music, but mostly it was an awesome episode.
Yeah, he was such a great discussion. It was just amazing. He has such great insight. We really hope you tune into this. He has a lot of great things to talk about, and really, this is one you do not want to miss. So, buckle up and let's go.
Welcome to the Sprinkled with Hope podcast.
This is Jason. And this is Shane.
And it's podcast time.
Welcome to Sprinkle with Hope podcast. This is your host, Jason. And today we have awesome guest with us, Scott Page. We are so excited you joined us. Thank you, Scott.
Yay!
Yes, Scott.
Yeah. Wahoo for Scott.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Scott. We really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm actually very happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead, Scott, and maybe introduce yourself to those that maybe don't know you or have heard you a little bit. You can give your backstory and kind of fill us in or fill our audience in. And
Okay, well, I come out of the music bit. I grew up in a musical family. I'll start back. I'll do the real quick kind of version of it.
yeah, there you go.
Grew up
Yeah.
in a musical family. My father was on a television show called The Lawrence Welk Show when I was a kid. So I grew up around television for 15 years. He was in that. So I saw the early days of TV. One of my biggest claim to fames, I'm the only guy that ever played in Lawrence Welk and Pink Floyd. Probably the only person in the entire world that's ever done that. And those that know Lawrence Welk, it's a pretty interesting kind of a shift there. But yeah, I grew up in that. My father, I started out to be an architect. I wanted to be an architect, so I started out as a draftsman and design and all of that. But I kept playing. I was a trumpet player when I was a kid, just to. My dad wanted me to keep playing, so I kind of did. I didn't really care much about music at the time. Later on, I got in a band with Jeff Beccaro and David Page from Toto. They started Toto
Awesome.
later on. This was prior when we were kids. Um, I realized that we were playing with that band. I was the worst guy. I was the second trumpet player in the band, but I realized I'd be going to these gigs, we'd be winning all these battle of the bands because the band was really good. And there were a lot of girls in the front row. So I said, you know what? I don't think I want to be a draftsman anymore. I think I'm going to be a musician. So I kind of switched.
Good
my whole
choice.
thing. I switched that whole thing. And so as I was actually in college, I was trying to figure out, I didn't play very good because I didn't really study when I was a kid much. So I decided to start taking it up, took it up pretty heavily. I became a draftsman. I mean, a music copyist because I had good penman skills and because of drafting. Because in those days when we did drafting in architecture, you had to use a pencil and a piece of paper and a ruler, right? So it was totally different. We had no computers. So my skills were pretty good there. So I took up music copying. From that, I was copying for a guy named H.B. Barnum and a bunch of different composers. And the music copying is basically the composer would write the score, call me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, say the session's at 10. You got to copy these parts. I'd run over to his house. He'd hand me this big score of paper with the first trumpet, the second trumpet, the third trumpet, violins, whatever that is. I'd stay
Yeah.
up all night drinking tons of coffee, writing out all the parts, run to the session the next day, hand him the stuff. And that's what I did for a while I was trying to study. Through that studying, I studied composing and arranging with a guy named Lyle Spud Murphy and graduated from a course called the Equal Interval System. So I really got into that whole thing. And then as I was growing up through my whole period of time, my father was a serial entrepreneur. We had boat businesses, lighting businesses, candy businesses. He was actually one of the first guys who co-invented the wah-wah pedal, the famous music wah-wah pedal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he had Sound City. The studio was his studio, which that movie came out of Dave Grohl's. So I grew up around that. So I've been around the music and entrepreneurial side of things. And then so I really got into the music side of stuff. Got lucky. My kind of first major band was playing with Seals and Crofts back in the day, doing Summer Breeze and stuff during their
Oh,
heyday.
yeah.
then I moved on, played with a lot of different bands. You know, I was in Mick Fleetwood Zoo, so I played with Mick Fleetwood. Then I got in Supertramp. I got that gig, and I played Supertramp. From that, during a session, we were doing an album with Supertramp. Dave Gilmour came along to put a solo on the Supertramp record. We hung out that night at a club gig I was playing. He came down and hung out. A week later, I had another event. He ended up showing up at that. And then a day later, he called me up and said, "Hey, you want to put a solo on the wanted me to put a solo on the Pink Floyd record." So I went and played on the Pink Floyd record. And it was funny because I really knew nothing about Pink Floyd at the time. I had nothing. I heard the name, but I really knew nothing about the band. About after I went in, did the solo, they loved it and everything, and I left. And it was like for me doing a session, just, you know, kind of would do sessions for bands. Then I got a call, the phone rings, I pick it up, it's English guy, it's Dave Gilmour. And he said, "Hey, you want to join Pink Floyd? We were getting ready to go out and do this whole tour and everything." And I was 2 years on the road. And I said, "Let me think about it, Dave." And so I called up my friends. I said, I played on this Pink Floyd record, and this guy called me up, Dave Gilmour, he's the guitar player. And they said, "Oh yeah, we know who Dave is." And they want me to join the band and go out on this tour for the next 2 years and everything. And I said, "What should I do?" And they're like, you got to do that. If you don't do that, you're crazy. So that night I went to Tower Records, bought a bunch of Pink Floyd records, came home, listened to them, said, "Okay, going to do that." So glad I did. So, you know, that was a major turning point for me as far as my music career. But, you know, I played with a lot of different bands, different things through the years. So I'm a musician, but then because I think of my dad from an entrepreneurial point of view, I got very much into business. So I'm on my 4th startup now. I've been very fortunate.
Wow.
I love business. I took one of the companies public. We were a NASDAQ company called Seventh Level. And there I did probably one of my favorite, I guess my most proud, one of the most proud things I've ever done is I kind of produced and co-directed the world's first interactive cartoon. And that was back in the day in technology when we were, you know, it was Windows machines with, 386, 25 megahertz machines back in the day, which were with 4 mega RAM, very small. I mean, this thing here is like, you know, this is serious compared to what we had to work with then. But, you know, we developed all these things, and I produced this cartoon thing. It was called Toonland, starred Howie Mandel. We had 11 million units of that got sold. That was a big deal for the company at the time. And so then I've basically been a serial entrepreneur, started 3-4 other companies. I have a new company called Think Experience right now, which is an immersive entertainment company. So I've been an entrepreneur, musician guy, and there you go. I gave you my entire life story there.
Awesome.
In like 5-10 minutes. There you go.
You are a busy man.
Crazy.
So do you keep up the music?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's big reason why I started Think was as I realized at this time, you know, all my companies beforehand have really been tech companies, and they've been around entertainment, but I wasn't playing as much. And then I got in, I said, you know what? I'm just not playing as much as I want to. And I just got music fever again. I said, you know, I'm going to start a business where I can play and do the business at the same time. And that's when I started Think. And Think is it's really focused on this immersive entertainment space. You know, you can't really sell music anymore. There's no place to sell music. And so I really started thinking about, you know, tech, how involved being pretty serious in the tech space. You know, that's where I've lived for pretty much for the last 25, 30 years, almost focused in the tech area. So I'm one of those guys that can talk tech and talk entertainment. So I kind of blend the two together because they're like oil and water.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do not mix, you know. I mean, you know, it's like musicians and artists, they always want to go, you know, let's try this. You know, they put their thumb up and you throw something, that doesn't work. And tech guys and code writing guys hate that. They want to know, is it on or is it off? Yes or no? They want everything because it's not black. It's black, has to be black and white in that world.
Yeah.
It's either yes or no. It's not there's no in between, no maybe. Although quantum computing is now moving into the maybe realm. But you know, so Think is really based on that. So we're real been focused. We did 40 shows before all this COVID stuff that went down in a 360-degree immersive dome. Sold those all out. I got a killer band. Think Experience is the company. Think X is the band. And it's Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. I'm one of the great drummers of all time. Norwood Fisher from Fishbone, bass player extraordinaire. Kenny Olson from Kid Rock's band, and he took over Hendrix's place when Hendrix passed and played in the Hendrix band with the original guys for years. Monster guitar player. And then this kid named Derek Day, who we call the Art Bird. He keeps us all young. I mean, he's just incredible. Just is such a fearless music artist like I've never seen before. And then Will Champlin, from you probably he was one of the runner-ups on The Voice. Great singer, great musician, incredible player. And so we've been doing that. So I've been combining the music and entertainment kind of thing. So we're playing, and then I'm building this company out, and we're now getting ready to launch Livin.live, which is our new model for where are we going now because of all this COVID stuff, the shutdown and everything. And so it's really a combination, I believe, of a live event, but for a kind of a premium, smaller crowds. It's going to be a while before we get into big stadium crowds. Smaller crowd, then tying streaming, but really focusing on the two-way streaming aspects of it, the interactive elements. Because most anybody can stream out, but it's that two-way piece where we can now start bringing what we call fan in stream. We can start bringing the fans into the actual streams and being part of the shows with us. And then the third component is really the concept. That's like right now we're doing this real-time kind of chat back and forth, but I can't hand you anything.
Right.
But I got delivery services all day long now that can bring you something, right? So we're building a whole show concept around a delivery box that shows up at your house prior to the shows. It has a whole experience built into it that we then tie our live show into. And then they buy premium tickets into the live stream, and they get to actually be part of the show. And then we have like the after show is on a specific kind of a platform, which allows, like, it's almost like moving around in a video space at a cocktail party. I can go from table to table. So you can imagine, we're hanging out, you and your 5 buddies, because when you come to our show, I can only have, maybe 100 people that can come to my show, but you can bring 5 of your friends virtually. And so we have all the room is completely surrounded with the audience being brought in virtually. They're all part of the show. And, it's a really cool experience because, it's very interesting, when they do these live shows and there's nobody in the room, it's like dead. So we just did the first experiment. We brought and filled the room. We put 18 80-inch monitors around the band. We brought 300 people in, brought them into the screens. We played tunes. We communicated. We talked. I had people in Italy, people in things. And it was very rewarding because it almost puts everybody in the front row. Right. It's like now I'm seeing people where usually when I'm on a stage or something, when there's a big audience, I can see the first couple rows and then the faces just kind of go away and it's just like a carpet. Here, it's like 300 people are like, doom, they're all the same size or the same thing. And they're, 5-7 feet away from you. So it was trippy, but it's actually pretty cool. So I'm actually very excited about what's going on in entertainment now in this space, because I think it's forcing new innovation to happen right now. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
This whole COVID and shutting down things just basically took technology and squished 5 years into 6 months.
Yeah.
We're where we knew we were going in tech. We always knew that, we had Zoom calls, we had this type of communications, but this forced everybody into the fact that, you're seeing people sitting around it. Like I'll be outside going to water my yard or whatever, hanging out in the back. And I got 4 of my friends on a FaceTime and we're like hanging out. One of them's cooking and stuff. And it's almost like you're there, right? I mean,
right.
We're there.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, I can hang up on you now. I don't have to go and I don't have to drive. And, it's all good. So that behavior, I think, is really going to be ingrained. And I even think when we get to the place where we're going to be able to have large audiences again, I think that you're still going to have a virtual audience will be tied into it at all times, because there's, if I go to the club and you can't come, and I can say, I'll take you with me. Boom, you come and you're up on the screens. I can see you. We can hang and talk, and it's all part of the event. I think that's going to be entailed. And plus, this, I think from a revenue model, from a business model, there's a lot to be said about that, because you get to build that relationship with the audience, which is different, right? And that starts leaving all kinds of opportunities for commerce. So, things that sell things that you can use in the show that are things that you can buy if you like what you're using it, and you can test things and samples. So it allows for sponsors to bring products, but it's all about relationships. And we're now moving into hives, right? So it's what I say, if you want to survive, you have to build a hive, because the revenue will be coming from the smaller audiences. I mean, used to be have to get out large to try to find those few percent of the people, but now we know, because we have also access to all the data, which is something we didn't have before, but we have the data now. We can see that the revenue, most of the revenue comes from, 60% of your revenue will come from 2 to 3% of your audience. It's your super fan thing. So if I can identify those folks, find and service them, that's where a bigger choice of my revenue. And it's really, our whole model is really based on the idea of, the 1,000 true fans. And that was coined by Kevin Kelly, probably 10 years ago, when all this stuff was starting to come around, and you could project ahead and see, but it was, the idea is of a true fan is somebody that will spend $100 a year on you. And if I have 1,000 of those, not 10 million, 1,000, there's my first $100,000 in revenue, right? So from a revenue model, it's really about going small, finding that super fan, building a repeatable model around that group of people, and building your business. And so it's the premium service kind of business. So I'm very excited. I think this is the greatest time in history for the independent artist.
Yeah, that's awesome. That really,
I think that's such a great idea.
yeah.
Wow,
To
thanks.
pull them in
And
like
it's something
that.
you guys should think about too. Remember, you can do the same thing. You could have called me up. You could have had something, knowing I'm coming on. You could have shipped me something. I could have opened it up. It could have been your sponsors, and we're checking out the new sponsor drink together.
Yeah.
Right. So what
Yeah.
happens is the sponsor likes that. You like that. I got something to make the experience, because the only way you're going to make money in this business anymore is the only place only things you can really sell is the relationship and the experience, right? You can't sell the music, can't sell that. Again, it's the experience and the relationship.
Right.
And so it's that value proposition. So it's like, how can I bring something different? And I think that because of this kind of COVID thing, and people are now getting used to staying home, I think they're going to have trusted source. They'll bring their family, friends over for Friday night. And, it's like going to having a Super Bowl party or a, that type of event. And that's the kind of thing we're trying to build. It's like, hey, Friday night, man, we're going to watch live, and we're going to go. We've got freaking Red Hot Chili Peppers. We're doing this thing, and we got all this stuff that's going to go down, and this box shows up, and I got cool things that I can do with my friends, and we can all interact and kind of turn it into something unique. So that's the model I think is going to be a winning combination moving forward.
No, it's really a great idea. I mean,
Thanks.
you're right. I mean, you do have to change, and we, in this changing world, we got to adapt. And so there you go. I mean, there's, adaptation, right?
Yeah. I mean, remember, this is the thing people have to understand. And I always say this because I put this in every time I talk, because I think this is so important for people to understand. The only thing that is real is you and me talking now. Everything else is an illusion. 2 minutes ago, gone.
Yeah.
2 minutes from now, I don't know.
Right.
It's all. So the only thing that matters is this step we're taking right now. So if we try to remember the past and we're like trying to hang on to all this stuff, then we can suffer like crazy because it drives us mentally nuts. So it's really about surrendering to what is. And so that's my model. I mean, we were going to have the biggest year for Think this year. This was going to be our second year because we did our first year of all trial, but this was going to be, we were going to play gigs. We had Jazz Fest set up in New Orleans. We were working on Europe, Budapest. We had all kinds of things. We were putting up this 1,600 seat with partners, an immersive theater up by the Queen Mary in Los Angeles. And the whole thing crashed, right? It was like somebody flipped the switch off. It was done.
Yeah.
I got up. I said, you know what? It's the same thing. Just move forward and try to figure out what we're going to do next. Right. That's that's the deal.
I love that idea that we live right in the now, right this moment. This is
I think
really
it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
So anything else is futile. I mean, people, you live in past and future, you suffer.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it's like, the most important things. I took a heavy spiritual path about 15 years ago, and it's the most important thing you could ever do. And I'm not saying it's a religious path. It's really about like, who am I and how does this all work, right? What is this all about?
Right.
And when you start taking that inward
Connecting with
journey, you
yourself,
start
right?
to realize that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. It's, it's all about presence. That's what they always talk about, is the fact that, people suffer. They could be sitting here suffering. Oh my God, what's going on like this? And then you stop and you go, where am I? Stop. I'm sitting in a chair. I have a glass of wine with ice in it. And I'm sitting here. No lions are chasing me.
Right.
Everything's okay. Right. So all that, anytime you're suffering and you have anxiety, tension, or fear, it's because you're usually identified with a thought, right? So that's why I
Yeah.
tell people, man, when they get all anxious stuff, just try to stop and ask yourself, where are you right now? And just ask this question. Am I feeling any anxiety, tension, or fear? If I'm sitting here and everything is okay, then it's because I'm identifying with a thought, an illusion.
Yeah.
Something it's just I can't change, I can't do anything. So then it's like, wake up, I don't need to get caught. But we are like hamsters in this wheel, and this thing, man, is like it's
Yeah.
feeding. By the way, have you guys seen Social Dilemma yet?
No, but I've heard a lot about
heard
it.
it's
I need to-
great.
Everybody watching this, hearing this, please do yourself and your family, and if you have kids, you must watch Social Dilemma. And the reason is it's really what it, the whole story is basically a handful of these major tech guys that were responsible in Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. I mean, all these guys that have built these platforms at the highest level are all calling, look out, we're getting, and you're seeing what's happening to society right now. Everybody's pitting each other over because the algorithms are feeding people things in their head, and they're only getting certain parts of the news. And so the machine is basically taking over. I actually believe that we are merging with machine now. Yeah, this thing isn't embedded in us yet, but you got it with you. It goes to bed with you. You change it. You're looking at it. It's talking to you. It's pinging you. It's notification. It's constantly there, which kind of getting to that point. And I think humans are designing themselves out, and that's another conversation. But the good news is, doesn't really matter because consciousness just unfolds. It's been doing it for billions of years, and it's going to keep on doing it for billions of years, right? There's no problem. The universe is fine. So when I hear people say, oh, we got to save the planet is fine. Humans, now that might be a different story. They may not make it, right? Because they're a little insane because of this egoic insanity of the human condition, so it's going to be interesting. So it's actually fun to watch all this go down and seeing how wacky humans are.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'll mind my little speech because I just think
I love it.
people need to, it's really about waking up. And I'm not talking about woke. I'm talking about waking up. And that waking up is a different thing. That's really when you stop and you smell the rose. You're aware. You basically become aware of where you are, what you're doing, and you just start to realize that all that other stuff is it. And as you start to become more aware, you realize you're starting to watch. And then you're starting to watch your thinking. And then you go, who's watching?
Right.
Is there two of me?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there two of me? It's like one's thinking and one's watching. What's that? And that's when the things start to get interesting because you start to realize that you're not the thinker, you're actually the watcher. And when you become the watcher, you start not suffering anymore because you don't let these things make you crazy because it's insane. I got a friend he got a new car and the next day his car got hit, right? Somebody backed into his car. That guy suffered for a month. I never seen anybody suffer so much over this dang car. I said, dude, it was hit. It's done. You can't change that. You can't do anything. So the only one that's suffering is you because the car, you're going to take it in. You got it fixed. It's okay. You move on. But you can suffer because of this mental wheel in your head. This thoughts can just make you completely crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of a book I'm reading right now called The Untethered Soul. And that's essentially the thought of it, right? Is that, these thoughts tend to kind of like control you almost. And you just have to step back and just think, oh, that's myself thinking. And there it goes. And off it goes. And
that's it.
Yeah.
And remember, all spiritual teachings, all meditations, everything point to the same thing. And it's really that space, what they call no mind. And the mind is where you're not thinking, right? Stop thinking. It's very difficult because it's like people say, how do I stop thought? And I can actually say it took me many years, but I finally cracked the code on that and I can stop thinking at any time. which is crazy because as soon as you do that, that's reality.
Yeah.
Because you merge basically with the source at that point, because you just realize all that the suffering is because of things that are in your head, nothing to be what's real. I mean, it's not real. You may think it's real, but reality is just us talking right now, because you can't change anything else.
Right.
Yep.
You do is
Right.
change this. People don't realize there's only one moment in time in your whole life. It's always the same moment. There's not two moments. How could there be two moments? I'm
Yeah.
here. I move over here. The moment hasn't changed. It's the same moment. I walk in my car. The moment. I'm always in the moment. It's one moment. It deepens, but it's always the same moment.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you start to
I
grasp
love
these
that.
things and you start to flip that switch from becoming the thinker, because that's what most people are, to the watcher, because here's another very important point. The mind is incapable of knowing truth from falsehood. It
Right.
doesn't know right or wrong. Your mind
Yeah.
can't make that decision. Easy to prove. If the mind was capable of knowing right from wrong, truth from falsehood, there'd be no war. Nobody would kill anybody if it would. There's no reason to go to war. That's insanity, right? That's the insanity of the egoic mind being driven by thoughts and things. I mean, you got guys blowing up their kids in the name of some, you know, God of some sort. And it's like,
Yes.
that's insanity where we're taking over. And that's the problem we're seeing right now, because the mind is incapable. So people are getting this bing, 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 bing all day long. These algorithms are feeding them what they want and controlling them. That's why you got to go watch Social Dilemma. Don't miss it, because you'll start to see how this works. It's really important that everybody realizes, when every time they open up their phone and they start doing anything, any social media, what's really going down. Because the bottom line is, whatever you don't pay for, you're the product. So
Yep.
you are the product of this thing, and you need to understand it. And more importantly for the kids, because
Yep.
I'm seeing parents getting their kids 8, 9 years old, handing them cell phones and stuff. And it's just going to be like, you know, I with my friend, and his 2 kids are in the back seat and they don't talk. They text each other back and forth in
Yeah.
the back.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's like, whoa, where are we going, folks? So this is a very fundamental shift in the way society is going to move forward, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm glad I'll be around for at least some of it, because it's fascinating to me. This is a fundamental shift. I mean, what we're doing right now, this is one of those amazing moments in history that will, you know, they'll talk about forever, because this is defining the way our country operates, and, you know, all these things. So it's interesting time.
Yeah, you've had some awesome insight. I've really thought it's been great. So Jason and I have come up with some 2 questions, and we call it the double down dose.
The double down dose. All right, here we go. Oh,
Yep.
God,
So here we go,
I'm
Scott.
scared now. I'm scared
You
now.
ready?
Yep.
So our podcast is called Sprinkled with Hope. So hope, of course, is really important to us. How would you define hope?
Well, first of all, for me, and this may sound strange, hope is kind of a negative word in the spiritual sense. It's a great word. Don't get me wrong. I think it works. But when you really look at it, if I'm hoping for something, that's like when I really kind of have it all. I don't really need to hope for anything. Now that's nice. So, but I would define, I guess, hope in a way. Hope is a great way to start moving you into a positive direction, right? Because that's what we need to do. Because remember, this mind thing will make us crazy, and hope has to do because we're trying to change something that we didn't kind of have, right? And really, the goal is to surrender to what is. Just surrender to the point and let things happen as they're going to happen, and not take them too seriously. So I think hope is good in the sense that it does help people. It gives them something to strive. But what happens is sometimes what happens is when you have something you're hoping for and it doesn't happen, it makes you crazy. So that goes back to thinking of what, you know, the Buddhist kind of things is, you know, they always say, be careful about putting too much into the future, right? A goal, because if that goal doesn't happen, well, I suffer. It's great to put goals. It's great to have hope, and that hope, but not attach yourself to the outcome. If you do, and it doesn't go the way you want, I hope I'm going to have I'm going to make $100,000 this next year. Oh, I only made 25. All right. Oh, hope didn't work. But it's good to give you drive. So just be careful of it. It's good to have hope, but it's also good to realize that, dude, if you're getting up and you've got things around you, you'd be surprised how much value, because I mean, there are people that have hardly anything that are living the happiest lives on this
Yeah.
planet. They have nothing
Yep.
comparatively. They live in a hut, they're there, and yet they're happy. Why is that? Is because they're not identifying or trying to be something and making that thing so important with my self-esteem, who I really am, right? I've got to show that I'm this. So if I hope I'm going to get there. So hope is a wonderful thing because it's good, but I would just say be careful of having it be something that if things don't work out the way you are, does it take and tear you down even farther?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I
don't know
like
how to
that.
explain that. I've always looked at that word as, and it's so funny because it's like hope, and I'm like, let it all go. We're okay. Now, don't get me wrong. It's probably up. Sure, it's easier for me to probably say that because I'm sitting here and I've been able to do okay and I get it. But as the more I learn and the more I understand, the more I study and the more I see, it's just amazing. Why is it somebody that has nothing comparative to anybody else is happy as can possibly be? So hope is not necessarily happiness, and you don't have to be happy. You just got to be surrender, just accept, right?
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
happy. There's a lot of things I'm not happy with, but I don't let them take me over anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Because when it takes you over, that's when you're identifying with this game that you're playing in your head, right? So that's what I would say. Let's get beyond hope and actually just surrender and accept, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I
Awesome.
don't know if that makes any sense. It's a little,
Yeah.
I feel
It
funny
does.
saying that at times because people think, oh, right, horrible. Hope is such a positive thing. And for me, it's actually kind of like it's a little interesting because it has a double-edged sword to it.
So the
Yeah.
second part of this double down dose, Scott, that we like to talk about is how would you define love? We like to talk about love and spreading love and
Oh.
that kind of thing. So what would you say about love? What does that mean to you?
Love to me is, well, first of all, it is that's why I love the love taking a spiritual look at things, because that's the basis of it all, right? And it's really forgiveness. So love to
Mm.
me, in a sense, is when it comes to certain things, it has to do with forgiveness and surrender. And love is obviously you would get attracted to somebody, but then that love can start to turn funny because your mental noise starts going on. So love is really um, just a total acceptance of what is, and realizing that everybody does the best they can, and loving everybody is the sense that um, it's the more you give, the more you get, right? So it's based on giving, and it's basically that connection that happens when everything else drops away and you basically connect with somebody, right? In that sense of love. So love is really a form of accepting everybody and realizing everybody and everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. And is that fact that when you surrender and you let go and you forgive, you then you see love at a totally different manner, because then you don't have any, you're not like looking at somebody and saying, oh, that horrible person, right? Because
Right.
that's what we're doing. It's that thing. And because again, even for me, it's like, you know, this is really strange to say, and I know people can't, but this is what I feel is, even with this whole George Floyd thing, which was the most disgusting and horrible thing to see another human do that, I feel really sad for the guy that did it, because everything around him and all those things are destroyed, and it was insanity. And we could say he could do better, but he would have done better if he could have, but
Mhm.
he didn't. So you have to forgive him too, just like everybody else. You have to forgive. So forgiveness and stuff is really where love comes. And, I think one of the things that we're seeing more today is, again, this insanity of the mind and thoughts and stuff is what I call hate in the name of love.
Mm.
I believe so much in love, and I'm so caring, and I love this and be kindness and all of this. And then they'll turn around and say something, especially about the president or something, that just makes you go, my God, I've never heard such hate in my life, right? And that's because people
Yeah.
Can't. So love is really about just accepting everybody for what they are, what it is, and realizing we're just all here. I blink, I'll be 50. I blink, I'll be on my deathbed that fast. Time is a complete illusion. So love is really accepting and everything as is. And then you're just so much more peaceful, and inner peace is, the goal of life. You figure out inner peace, you're Bill Gates. You won the lottery.
Yeah.
You're just like, and you've won, right? Because you're not letting life run you in a way. Life becomes much more playful. So love is really forgiveness and kindness and surrender to what is, and just knowing that everything is there. And again, as the more aware you become, the more you look around and you're aware of where you are and where all your presence, you're just amazed by the vastness there's so much love and peace that's in there. When you stare at the trees, they're living things. You look at your dog, your animal. Somebody want a great spiritual, go watch your dog for hours. They just sit there and they go like this.
Yeah.
And what is it? He's so present. He's so aware that he's like, not when you get love is letting go, right? And just realizing that we're all here and we
Yep.
should all be thankful that we get a chance. So to me, that's what love is.
I love that. I love, I love how you brought up forgiveness, because I truly believe that. And I think when we do forgive, we're setting ourselves free, right? More than we are actually,
Oh,
letting
not
that
for
other
you.
person.
It's not, remember, every action, everything out there isn't about the other thing. It's all about you, on
Yep.
how you react,
Yep.
how you deal with it, how you accept
Yep.
things, right? How you do it,
Yeah.
because that's the lesson that you're trying to learn. You're trying to become more aware and realize that it's perfect. Everything is perfect. The universe is perfect the way it works. It's incredible. It's us taking ourselves out because of this egoic mind and consciousness, in this fight between the two. It's that little voice. Funny for me is April 9th, 10, 12, 2011, I had an incredible moment. I woke up, rubbed my eyes, and I went, holy crap, 50 something years went by. I blinked and it went by. And it was like, how did that happen? And I realized at that moment, though, the voice that's been talking to me since I was 5 years old didn't age, didn't change, didn't get smarter, didn't everything. It's that same thing.
Yeah.
That's who I am. And that, right?
Yeah.
It's really, that's who you really are. So once you start to realize that, who you really are, that's the game. And, it's funny. It's like this thing of death. This is dang meat suit. I don't think you die. I think this conscious thing just continues on and the meat suit goes away, right? So once you take this different path, you start to look at, you get less about fear goes away, right? Because there's nothing
Yep.
to fear. There's really nothing to fear.
Yep.
I'm actually a little curious about the other side, to be honest. So I'm not worried about it. If it's time,
Right.
fine. I'm there, because I just don't think it. I think I think we could be in hell right now. Maybe it's the other way around, right? Maybe we go to someplace else, right? So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Scott, you have had some amazing insight. I have really enjoyed our discussion. I think, I love what you've said. And I think certainly when I listen back to this, I'll take a lot more in than as I'm more attentive. And I just have really enjoyed talking with you. We really appreciate your time. And
Oh, thank you very, very much. Very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Always love to talk that. See, consciousness and that whole thing is my favorite subject on the planet. So I will talk about that all day long, because I think that's the only,
Yep.
that's the only conversation that's important. All the
Yeah.
rest of this stuff
Yeah.
is all great, but it's really about how you feel, how you view the world. And, it's incredible. So, but here's the one. So everything is about awareness, right? But here's the puzzle for everybody. How do I know I'm aware that I'm aware? That's what you have to figure out, because your mind will tell you you're aware, but you may not be. It might be fooling you. So that's the puzzle, because once you hit that, man, dude, life's a whole different game.
Yeah.
Right? You no more suffering about stuff. You don't worry about things because it's fine. You just walk around. I mean, I constantly feel like now when I walk, I take a step, the past just goes away. I don't care about the past, future.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
gone.
that.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's all doesn't matter. All I need to do is make sure we're having a good time right now.
That's
I'm
right.
having a good time with you guys.
That's right.
So I'm happy. It's been
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we are
45
too.
minutes or whatever we've been on talking. So, all right.
So before we let you go, how is there a way that you want to let our listeners know how to get a hold of you, and how they
Sure.
can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. All my social media is IAM Scott Page. I am Scott Page. All of them are the same. And then
Okay.
if you want to find out about Think EXP, just type, Google Think Experience, and then it'll bring up all the stuff. You can see some of our dome shows, hear the band, hear what we're doing. You'll find out what we're doing, on the immersive entertainment side. And I do want to tell everybody, if you happen to be in the San Antonio on November 1st, we're doing a San Antonio. We're doing one of those drive-in shows with the Think band.
Oh yeah.
We're doing 2 shows on November 1st outside. And what's cool is we're doing it for the local food bank and also the homeless shelters there. So we want people to bring food. We want them to they can put money down, bring food, bring blankets. We're going to try to help the community as much as we can. There's 7 nights of shows that are going on. We're playing the last night. So yeah, it's I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, it's the festival at Freeman Coliseum. I wish I had the information from me. I'd give it you, but you can look it up, or you can just hit me up anytime. I talk to people, so if you hit me up on Instagram or
Awesome.
Twitter or something, I'll talk to you.
Awesome. Love it,
That
Scott.
is so great.
That is great. I love that you're going to give back too, right? Like in
I'll do.
helping this situation that we're in, and what better way to do that than
Well, it's
through
not
your
even a giving
music.
back anymore, buddy. We're past that with this lockdown and what we're about to see going into next
Yeah,
year. We
you're
have
right.
to give forward. I
Yeah.
think we have to encourage everybody to give forward because we're going to need to help our fellow man. I mean, there's just no way around it. We're
Yeah.
going to have a lot of things, a lot of
awesome.
problems need to be solved, but we got a lot of innovation. There's a very bunch of smart people. There's a bunch of kind people. And so we just need to rally everybody and get through it. It's
Yeah,
part of what it's
absolutely.
the cards we're all dealt, right? It's just
Yep.
what's dealt.
Yep.
Gotta deal with it.
Well, thank you, Scott, so much for
Yes.
coming
Scott,
on with us.
Thank you again so much.
Yeah.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you. And
Have a
peace,
wonderful
everybody.
Great.
And don't live in fear. We're going to be okay.
Yeah.
See you. Bye.
This is Sprinkled with Hope. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend.
If you like our podcast, please give us a review or rating.